Managing and creating equations in SolidWorks 2012 is now much easier, with a completely revised Equations Manager. Before we take a look at these errors, let's take a look at the new view modes available. Equation View. This lists all the current equations in the design sorted by type. Dimension View. This lists every dimension in the design as well as how it's being solved. This makes picking out those dimension values affected by equations easy. Finally, the Order View. This lists all the equations in our design and what order they are currently being solved in. Getting the equation order right can sometimes be a challenge when integrating equations into our design. SolidWorks 2012 can take all the guesswork out with a new tool that automatically calculates the solve order. Turning the option on eliminates any errors in our design, as SolidWorks reverses the order of items 2 and 3. Creating equations is easy as well. Let's start with a simple global variable called overall length. To assign the variable to a global variable, simply type the name of the dimension and the global variable has been created. To build more complex equations, you can still grab dimensions out of the graphics area and associate them to others. But 2012 introduces new capabilities for linking things such as global variables, functions, file properties, and even a measure capability. Let's tie this to that global variable we just created called overall length, and we want to subtract a value. Currently there is no dimension associated with the value we're looking for, so we can use the measure capability to add a new reference dimension automatically on the fly. By creating a reference dimension, we maintain the associativity and the parametric control over the model. Anytime we can click and rebuild to see how the equation affects our model, but turning the automatic rebuild on will make it much easier to see how the design changes in real time. In this case, to change the overall length to be associated with the width. As we go ahead, we can update the value and see how the model updates accordingly. One of the best parts how the equations have changed is how easily they are modified directly from the graphics area. Double clicking on any dimension brings up the Modify dialog box. We now have access to change the name of the dimension on the fly. This saves a lot of time in getting your variables named appropriately. But that's not it. We can also add equations right here on the fly as well. By typing the equal sign, SolidWorks starts building the equation, and even colours the equation to let us know if the syntax is correct. In this case, we want to build an equation that solves the overall length and determines the hole spacing of these three holes at the top of our part. Making sure we have our equation right can be verified by clicking the checkbox. This prompts us with the value that the equation should equate to. Clicking the rebuild will affirm we've got the equation correct. As you can see, creating and managing equations in SolidWorks 2012 is now easier and more efficient than before.